Hi, I'm Alan Watt, and some of you have heard me on radio broadcasts going back to '98 on the Sweet Liberty broadcasts and shortwave radio. Jackie Petrou was the host, and we still do the occasional Wednesday night on internet only this time. And we have been for the last year or so. On these programs we've discussed the histories of mind control, basically. We've gone through the histories of ancient religions, how they started up with civilizations, the meaning of civilization, the money system, which is part and parcel with religion in this system called civilization, the techniques to control the peoples, which haven't really changed that much. The same techniques are used, only on a much larger scale. Plus they have children in school to start the indoctrination process early and to giving them a type of version of reality, which generally they will never question their whole life long. They accept the world as it's being presented to them. Many, many thousands of years ago, civilizations rose and fell. And really by civilization, we're talking about the creation of artificial systems. Money, of course, is an unnatural thing to use for barter. It's of no use in itself. It's supposedly a tool. That's how it's pushed over through economics. It's a tool which helps barter. It helps barter, you see, by introducing a third party. And of course, those who introduce the money ultimately control those who barter and those who buy. From money, of course, they build cities. City is an artificial hive, a beehive, as Plato called them. And through cities, these civilizations, really all one civilization under many faces, through the cities they could, because they must use money in a city and they can't grow anything in a city, they can't feed themselves, they're totally artificial. Culture, which is fluid and flexible, is not a natural thing. At least we don't know what natural culture ever was. But it's definitely flexible and pliable, and it's a science in culture creation. It's still ongoing. Those who know how to manipulate it had their start in the cities, where once they have money on the go, and they've trained the people outside to accept money for their food products and so on, they then can get a standing army from within the city, and with the standing army they go outside the city and conquer other peoples, force them into the system, force them to use money, give them a religion, and really they're really slaves. And as Charles Galton Darwin said, the grandson of Charles Darwin, he said that every civilization has really been a form of slavery for the people. And he was all for it. That was a natural order according to him. And of course those who are trained in power and control of the people are trained in these techniques since birth. They're brought up listening to a different version of reality than someone brought up in a local housing area. They're told that the realities of life, the predators which should be at the top, the natural order. The predators, of course, because they're such hypocrites, are good predators. They can't tell the children how they're really feeding off them or manipulating them for different ends, because children don't understand these things. And those with the low IQs, you know, the little people at the bottom of the hill, you got to keep them in the dark. The profane in Masonry means those in the darkness, base people, which is a real hypocrisy in itself, because it's like breaking the legs on a cow and then kicking the cow because it can't get up. That's the hypocrisy of this system, and that's how they view the public. They've broken our legs, and then they hate us because we can't get up. We're pathetic. And of course, they claim that we need them. It's like saying that the mice in the fields need the hawk. This is the logic of the predator. From the days of Babylon and before Babylon, they call them the Harappans. This is the name that's been stuck on these people by historians just to give them a name. But the Harappan culture extended all the way from Egypt right through the Middle East to China. And now they're unearthing pre-Sumerian Harappan cities on trade routes. And of course they must use a money system. They lived a very high standard of living, these merchants. And they even had indoor plumbing, you know, something that some people today don't have, even in Canada and some places. If we go into the Minoan cultures, we'll find the Minoans in the Aegean Sea controlled all the trade routes. They controlled all the merchandising on the sea, land, and everything. And they also had indoor plumbing and central heating even, and hot water for bathing in, and showers even. And they lived an extremely beautiful lifestyle. They had painted frescoes in every room and hand painted, and that must have been a wonderful existence for this high ancient elite, who obviously didn't create the culture themselves or the system. They had got it from a previous civilization in turn. And so we come to this impasse where we're looking at people down through the ages who are intergenerational and who pass this system on to the next. And now, of course, that does seem to be what it really is all about, because dynasties in power never give up power. When they do move, because it's their turn to lose in warfare, because they have turns, you see. War is to create change and to make profit, not for what the public think it's for. So sometimes the ones who decide, well, we'll lose this time, they will actually move to generally their enemy's camp, which is their friends, and share the loot, and bring up their children and slap the name of the country on them, and they don't care what they call the country. The elite never ever get massacred or wiped out with their wealth. They just move. They move all down through the ages. They bring on catastrophes to an empire when they've used that empire up, and they've already created another one to move into. Then they flatten the old one and move on. And this has been the system for thousands and thousands of years at least. The trick of Darwin was to make you think we just evolved in 200,000 BC, and before that he even said 10,000 BC, which is rubbish. This whole evolution thing is actually a Masonic doctrine. It's nothing to do with what we think it's meant to be. It's a Masonic doctrine. So Darwin just was pulled out the hat by the Royal Society, which was a Masonic scientific establishment chartered by the British Crown to exist. And he basically gave the origin of species, etc., to justify the right of certain types to rule. And he wasn't talking about other animals over animals, he was talking about themselves over us. So evolution is a caste system. It's to verify a caste system, to reinforce it. And of course, it's worked very well up until now. So going back to the Minoans, we know that they also shared, and they were probably very much so, a part of the ancient Egyptian elite. Because the frescoes on their walls have the same imagery, styles, techniques used as you'll see in the frescoes inside some of the tombs inside in Egypt. And they even had the little curls down at the front, the locks of the youth that they used to depict youth in Egypt. So yeah, it would make perfect sense that a real elite, you see, wouldn't live in a place where they could be easily attacked. They would have a front, an empire or a city, and come in and out of it, certainly, but they would always have somewhere safe, such as the middle of the Aegean Sea. And we know, for instance, that in a circle in the Aegean Sea of little islands which are left after a volcano goes down, that they had that huge island there at one time, and islands like Terra are the remains of them. When the center of the volcano sinks into the ocean, these little fringe ones remain and become separate little islands, and that's where we get much of the Minoan history from. Interestingly, the Minoans used a double-headed axe in their religious ceremonies, the symbol of the fasci, which has come down through the ages. So we're looking at something that the Catholic Church used afterwards, thousands of years later, because the Minoans were around 5,000–6,000 BC. And here's the same symbology used by the Roman Catholic Church, who simply inherited their culture from the Greeks who moved into Rome. That's the elite, that is, of course, and brought all this symbology with them. The Greeks got it from the Minoans. So this is an endless stream of symbology down through the ages, a language, you might say, which they understand very well, and which some very high Masons understand, and which some people who are natural adepts can figure out themselves, but there's not very few of them.